Okay, good morning everyone in Chazak. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning as we are studying together a new Parashat Terumah. And we are now shifting into a new, a few weeks of dedicating ourselves when we study the Parashat. The Parashat is shifting to the building of a house for God, the Mishkan. And our Parashat begins, Ve'ikhu li terumah. Ve'ikhu li terumah, God says to Moshe that I want people to start donating. I need you to build a house for me, a Mishkan. Our Midrash has something very interesting to say. B'sha'ah she'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe, when God started to tell Moshe all of the details of building a house, the construction of the Tabernacle, Amar lefanav, he said to God, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, Yecholim hem Yisrael asoto. Could the Jewish people really build a Mishkan, a house for you? Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God responded, Afilu ehad me Yisrael yachol asoto. Even a single individual can build it. Shne'emar, like it says, Me'et kol ish asher yidebenu libo. From every man whose heart motivates him, you shall take my portion. Amru Rabbanan, our rabbis give an example. Af baman shehaya yored leIsrael. Even in the man that would come every morning, that the Jewish people would eat from, the bread from the heavens. Hayu yordot bo avanim tovot umargaliot. There would be in the man, besides for just delicious food that they ate, they also had in the man, there were precious stones, there were gems, of which they eventually used to put on the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol. Vehayu hagdolim shebahen ba'im meleketim otam vehayu gonzim otam. And the leaders, we know, the Nesi'im, the princes of each tribes, they would come and they would gather those stones and they would save them till eventually they were used for the priestly garments. Teda shekenu. That's why the Midrash says, when the Jewish people brought their donations, it says that they brought them baboker. What does it mean baboker? They would bring every morning. Now, did they really bring the donation only in the morning? They didn't bring donations in the afternoon? What does it mean baboker? Answers the Midrash, haman morid lahim. They would bring from what came down every morning. They would bring donations from the man that came down baboker. The donation wasn't made in the morning. They made a donation from what came down in the morning, which was these stones that came with the man. Unbelievable. And by the way, we know later on when it says that the Nesi'im brought the stones, it spells over there the word Nesi'im without a yud. It's spelled nun, sin, aleph, ha-Nesi'im. Our rabbis say that the word Nesi'im means clouds. You can look in Mishlei, chapter 25, pasuk 14. And it was the clouds that brought the stones. It was the man that brought these gems. Our Midrash, my friends, is teaching us something very powerful in life. Moshe Rabbeinu was being constructed by God to build a Mishkan. When Moshe heard what a Mishkan needs to look like, and the tapestry, the curtains, the embroidery, the gold, the craftsmanship, the skill that's required, Moshe said, God, even the greatest skilled craftsman of all time is not going to be able to build such a house for you. It's impossible. Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe's not a cynic, he's not a skeptical guy, but realistically, he said this is impossible. It's beyond our abilities. And God responds and says to Moshe, you think it's you that's building it? You think you're the one? I'm not expecting you to do this. I'm doing it. But I just need for you to help me get the ball started. Like it says in Shir HaShirim, Pithili. Pasuk says in Shir HaShirim, אני ישנה ולבי ער, כל דודי דופק, פתחי לי אחותי רעייתי יונתי תמתי. Pasuk says, פתחי לי, open for me. My dear, my darling, open the door. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, פתחי לי, open for me, פתחו לי פתח כחודו של מחט. Open for me a tiny door, a tiny opening. In life, God says, you don't need to do the entire thing. You don't need to do even a lot of it. You just need to open the door. Take the first step. I'm doing it, God says. I'm the one doing it. Pithuli. Open for me the door. Just make a tiny crack. Boom. God says, I'll do the rest. But you just got to make the tiniest opening. What's very interesting is that the word li, actually, when God says, Pithuli, open for me the door, it's the same word that appears in our parasha, Veyikhuli Terumah. God says, you're not taking for you. You're not doing it. You're bringing a donation, but it's really to allow me to come and to bless your efforts. In life, we can never really accomplish everything. But God says you don't need to. You just need to start. You just need to do something. Take a step. And a lot of times in life, we feel like what we want to achieve, what we want to accomplish, we look at this insurmountable challenge and we think this is way too big for me. I'm not the guy. I can't. Maybe other rabbis, maybe other laymen, maybe other people. This is not for me. There's no way. It's too hard. We have to remember, my friends, sometimes we look at successful people and we forget they didn't start where they started today. You see a guy with a company, maybe thousands of employees. He didn't start with thousands of employees. He didn't start there. He started with one. He started himself. He was the employee. You see an organization giving millions to tzedakah. The organization started with one person. One person giving maybe not even $1, maybe just a time, maybe something that they could do on their own level. But we don't underestimate the power, the ability of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bless your effort. Do not let the Yetzer Hara come and put doubt in your head. He's very good at that. You get inspired, you have an idea, you want to build a house for God, you want to build a Mishkan, but then there's something called, you ready? Realistic. Realistically, I'm not pessimist. I'm a realistic. Practically speaking, you can't do it. You got to be a realist. In life, we can't be realists. Because really, we can't do it. In life, we have to be optimistic. There's a fellow who passed away this past week in the city, Joe Aronal, Alav Shalom. Tremendous tzaddik. Tremendous Talmid Chacham. And he was a fellow layman, businessman. But you heard at the funeral, this guy learned Torah every day of his life. You heard stories of how they needed a Chabad center in Manhattan. It was the first one. There was no Chabad over here in the 70s, whatever it was. And he decided together with the rabbi over here, they decided we're going to build a Chabad. Now, building at the time was millions and millions and millions of dollars, money that the rabbi for sure did not have, but even Joe Aronal did not have. But he said, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. He was an optimistic type of guy. There was no such thing that cannot be done. It's going to happen. And when there was failure, when it didn't work out, when it didn't play out, they would say, okay, let's find a way to fix it. It was never failure. It was just that, okay, it's just that we have to tweak it. It just has to be modified. This is the lesson of our parasha. God is saying to Moshe, you're not doing it. The Jews are not doing it. I'm doing it. I'm sending you the stones and the man. I'm sending you all the ability. But you just have to start. When a person starts, all of a sudden they realize that Hashem sends to them all the siyata d'shmaya, all the people, all of a sudden this one calls you, and that one calls you, and that one says, I have this, and I have that, and I have a building, and I have a thing, and I can lend you that. And all of a sudden you see things that were never realistic. It was impossible. All of a sudden it's off the ground. They had this past week, 1,000 strong. Started by a few little kids. No experience in collecting money. They weren't very well connected. They're not very wealthy. Regular kids. They decided they're going to start to do whatever they can for Israel. They start to raise, if we could raise a few dollars. They're hoping to raise $1,000 if they could. They got together. They called somebody. Maybe you want to come do a little entertainment, a little show. They had their third show since October 7th. They had their third show this past Thursday night. If I tell you, thousands of people maybe. Thousands of people waiting online in the freezing cold. I was one of them waiting online just to get in with a ticket. I had a ticket. You had to wait online to get in. And they had speeches. They had singing. It was inspiring. The mayor was there. I think they collected over $500,000. $500,000 by who? By who? A few kids that had an idea of, let's see what we can do to help Israel. $500,000 from a small group, a small tiny group of Jews. This is the power of starting. Just start. Don't be afraid. Don't think every detail. We play it out. How about this? How about that? In life, you get very overwhelmed when you look at how much has to be achieved, how much we have to accomplish. We just have to, God says, one condition. Yidevenu libo. You got to put your heart into it. You put your heart and you'll see somehow splitting of the sea. The Yam Suf. God says, I'll split the sea for you. You just got to take the first step. You got to just be a nachshon. You got to go in. And there's many examples. There's many examples of this in life. We know Batya. Batya couldn't reach the basket. It was impossible. It was very far. What did she do? She stuck out her hand. How much effort does that take? She stuck out her hand. God says, that's all I want to see. I just want to see you try. Just try. Person never learned Torah in their life. I'm going to finish all these books. I'm going to read Chumash and Mefarshim, and I'm going to finish Mishnayot and Gemara. I don't even understand Hebrew. Forget about Aramaic. How am I going to learn Gemara? How am I going to finish all the Tosafot and all the commentaries? You know who thought like that? I thought like that. After high school, I went to yeshiva, and I see all of these guys that they're towering over me, and they're learning light speed, and I'm there, I couldn't even understand the first word of the Mishnah. And you get thoughts of doubt. You start feeling, this is not for me. How in the world am I ever going to reach that? 1,000 years I'll never get there. But thank God I had amazing rabbis. And I had amazing inspiration. And they were patient with me, and they sat with me. And you know what? You try, and you try, and you try, and then all of a sudden, a little gift comes from the heavens. It's like all of a sudden, what was impossible, your mind, all of a sudden, it's like you upgrade the bandwidth. And I never was able to understand, and all of a sudden, it's like I got it. And it was impossible. That's the crazy thing. At the time, it was. But God says, open for me, and I'll open for you. And I'll upgrade you. And I'll give you the ability. Something that you could not have done before. Your muscles before were not capable of lifting this. But God says, but I got new muscles to give you. You're not limited to that old self. You're not limited to that old brain. You're not limited to those old abilities, to that old thing. I could give you better. I could give you more. But you got to show me that you want the more. Person in life takes the first step. Raising children, Hashem Yishmor. A person thinks about the responsibility. Who am I to raise kids in today's complicated world? I'm not equipped. How many things could happen? Forget about mental health and Judaism and spiritual health and all the healths. You have how many things go wrong today as a parent? And who knows? And the kids and school, and God forbid, you hear stories and things that could happen. And how do you know? And I'm going to be a bad parent, and I'm a failure, and I'm not going to be able to give them the love that they need, that they require. And now 2 kids, I got to split it, and they come home, and their whole world. And you could sometimes overthink that I don't have the patience, I don't have the wisdom, I don't have the strength, I don't have the love that's needed to guide, to raise the next generation. I don't have it. Person could think of this like this about growth. I can't. I'm not capable of just growing, breaking that bad habit, strengthening my midot, becoming patient, not being angry. I don't have that. I can't do it. I can't keep Shabbat. You kidding me? I can barely put my phone down for 5 minutes on a weekday. We put it down for 25 hours. I can't do that. Impossible. God says, forget the 25. Just open, make a little hole. Just start. Do something. Keep a little bit. You can keep a little bit, no. You can keep an hour at dinner. You could put it away at dinner time, no. You could turn off the devices, you could put away the TV and their phones at dinner. No, dinner. Dinner is a dinner. Family, you need dinner. Eat together with your family, talk about your week, whatever it was, put it away for dinner. Just start. Pithuli. Don't worry about the enemy, it seems so big and I can't do this. My favorite movie growing up, The Karate Kid. Karate Kid. You have this little kid, Daniel LaRusso, and in the movie, you have these very, very intimidating, strong guys in school that they're beating him up. And in a million years, there's no way that this kid could be ready for the tournament to beat them. But Mr. Miyagi teaches him, right? Just wax on. Just wax off. Just do a little thing over here, a little paint the fence over there, a little brush the deck. Just do a little, and just do a little, and just do a little. And all of a sudden, you wake up one day and you realize it all comes together. And all of a sudden, you're a contender. You're a contender. You're in the game. You can't allow the feeling of unworthiness, of overwhelming to get to you. In a marriage, you got to communicate. How many single people today, they feel like, I can't be what it takes. I don't have what it takes to be a good spouse. I don't have what it takes. It's too hard. It's too hard. You got to be patient. You got to talk. You got to listen. You got to this. You got to that. I'm not me. Nothing in life is ever anyone. Not making money, not raising kids, not getting married, not learning Torah, not doing chesed, not becoming a leader, not overcoming bad midot. Nothing is ever anyone. Until we actually try. Until we actually step up. All the Gedolim, that they accomplished tremendous things in life. Every one of them, they've at one point or another had to face something that they felt was bigger than them. I'm going to build this Mishkan. It's too big. How am I going to build this? But they understood. Great people understand that you're not alone. There's a silent partner. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is carrying us. And the truth is, He's doing a lot more than we think. We're not even doing anything when we realize. You speak to successful people, they'll tell you, I didn't do anything. Literally, I didn't do anything. I started a thing, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 company, millions and millions of dollars to tzedakah. And you just gotta realize, Yidevenu libo. As your heart's there, change worlds. Sarah Schneerer, was she a tailor? She made dresses. Look what she built today. But you can't think of today. You know, when you think of change, you think of growth, you think of you think of like the example of like who your role model is, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get there? Forget about there. That's way too big. Don't think of there. Gotta just think of small. Start small. Make a little hole. Make a little opening. Do something that is realistic for you. Bring a donation. You don't know. You don't know. Henrietta Zold, 1900s, Jewish woman, no political power. She had no money. She saw a need for medical care in Israel. Medical care. What did she start with? A little wheelchair, a little shots, a little this, a little Band-Aid. She started. Today, Hashem helped her establish Hadassah Hospital. It didn't start from a doctor. A lady that saw a need. Let me see how I can help. Let me see what I could do. Meir Shapiro started the Daf Yomi. Daf Yomi. When he started, he said, how in the world am I going to get every single Jew all over the world to study on the same cycle, the same schedule? Impossible. How are you going to get all the Jews? This is, by the way, he started before internet. Today you could hear maybe how. But he started this way before. That social media, nothing. Now you have every single day tens of thousands of Jews all over the world learning the same thing. You're in an airport, you're on a Pesach program, you're on a cruise, you're in a plane. You can go over to a Jew and say, could you help me understand Daf Hit, page 8, because you know that this other Jew did it today, because he's also on the same cycle. You never met each other. The guy is from a different country. But you know you're learning the same thing as another Jew. Petchuli Petach. Every Jew across the world is unified in Gemara learning because one man had an idea that it would be pretty cool. I don't know how. And there's so many examples. There's a group in Brooklyn right now, they learn every day Mishnah. Mishnah, 2 Mishnayot a day. And it started with a guy teaching his friend Mishnah. And then his friend said, my friend would want to learn. Let's learn together Mishnah. And he got his friends and they said, what? Let's create a conference, a Zoom. So this guy started teaching 5, 6 guys every day. They're learning Mishnah, 2 Mishnayot a day. In the middle of the day, businessmen are stopping to learn Mishnah, Torah. Amazing. And then he said, I could only teach one class at this time, but maybe I have a friend who could also teach another group, and another group, and another group, and another group, and another group. And today, you have thousands of people every single day learning Mishnayot on Zoom like this, 2 Mishnayot, an idea that no one in the world would ever think could happen. And how long does it take? It takes 5-10 minutes. One of the guys doing it, he called me, they finished the Masechet the other day, he asked me to do a siyum. If I could just speak for 5 minutes on the Zoom to give them Hayzuk. And I'm sitting there and there's 30 people on the Zoom. And this is one of hundreds of different classes being given. Unbelievable. Who would have thought? I tell you one thing, the guy who started it for sure didn't think it would be this big. He didn't think it's going to be this big. And in a way, sometimes you can't think too much. You think too much, sometimes you got to sometimes be naive in life. My wife always says when it comes to marriage, you got to be young and stupid. Young and stupid. You're too smart, you think, you calculate, you think too much, you're never going to do it. Sometimes you got to just be emunah peshuta. Sometimes you got to be sometimes a little bit naive, simple faith. To understand, it's okay. It's a very big idea. Seems daunting, but you got to be optimistic. Got to be optimistic, and you got to do what you could do. Start where you can. Make the first step. Bring a donation. The Jew that brought the donation, a piece of gold. What's a piece of gold? You never think a piece of gold is going to build a Mishkan for God. God says, just bring it. Don't worry. Don't overthink. Just do what you could do. Make a donation. Go to a class. Hit the gym. Pick up a phone. Take her on a date. She's way out of my league. Pick up the phone. Just go on a date. A text. A hello. Start. You just gotta start. My friends, you just gotta start. That's what Hashem teaches us. Just do. You're not doing alone. And Hashem doesn't expect you to do it alone. Lo alecha hamelacha legmor. Never forget that line. It's not expected on you to do it alone. Just open the door, a little crack. If you right now feel something today is beyond your reach, our Parashat Terumah reminds us, just open the door. And Hashem will open it wide open for you. Take the first step, and He will carry you the rest of the way. Remember, I saw a line, beautiful line. Don't be afraid that it won't be perfect. Be afraid that it won't be. How beautiful is that? Don't be afraid that it won't be perfect. Be afraid that it won't be. If it won't be, that would be much sadder. Sometimes we just got to start. Just do it. Don't worry about perfection. A tiny step, Borei Olam comes and blesses, and all of a sudden you have this amazing Mishkan, this amazing house, this amazing world that we build for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, my friends, we'll stop over here. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.